Dr. Alex Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed over another pile of broken rocks. The mining equipment had torn through this valley like a metal beast, leaving deep scars in the red earth of Kepler 442b. His job was simple: check for any damage to the local wildlife and make sure the mining company followed the rules. The sun was setting, painting the sky purple and orange. Alex wanted to finish his work and get back to the colony before dark. The nights on this planet were cold, and strange sounds echoed through the valleys. He was about to turn back when he heard something that made him stop. It was a soft crying sound like a baby in pain. Alex followed the sound to a small cave hidden behind some fallen boulders. The crying got louder as he got closer. He turned on his flashlight and looked inside the cave. What he saw made his heart race. 3 small creatures huddled together in the back of the cave. They were no bigger than house cats, covered in dark fur with silver stripes. Their eyes were bright yellow and they had tiny claws on their paws. Alex knew what they were right away: Vorthak cubs. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Vorthaks. They were the most feared predators in known space. Adult Vorthak stood 8 feet tall and could tear through metal with their claws. They hunted in packs and showed no mercy to their enemies. The mining crews had strict orders to stay away from any Vorthak territory, but these were just babies. They looked hungry and scared. One of them had a cut on its leg. Another was so weak it could barely lift its head. The third one tried to make a threatening growl, but it sounded more like a kitten's meow. Alex should have walked away. The rules were clear: no contact with dangerous species, but looking at these tiny, helpless creatures, he could not just leave them to die. He slowly reached into the cave. The cubs backed away, making small, frightened sounds. Alex spoke softly to them the way he would talk to a scared animal back on Earth. "It's okay, little ones. I won't hurt you." The strongest cub sniffed his hand. Its nose was cold and wet, just like a puppy's. After a moment, it let Alex touch its head. The fur was softer than he expected. Alex looked around the cave and saw bones scattered in one corner. Adult Vorthaks had lived here, probably the cubs' parents. The mining equipment must have scared them away, or worse. These babies had been alone for days, maybe weeks. He made a decision that would change everything. Alex carefully picked up the cubs one by one. They were lighter than he thought they would be. He put them in his sample bag, making sure they could breathe. The cubs cuddled together, their small bodies shaking from cold and fear. The walk back to the colony took an hour. Alex kept checking on the cubs, making sure they were okay. He could feel them moving in the bag, but they had stopped crying. Maybe they knew he was trying to help. The colony was a collection of metal buildings connected by covered walkways. Most people were eating dinner or relaxing after a long day of work. Alex slipped into his quarters without being seen by anyone. His room was small but comfortable. He had a bed, a desk, and a small kitchen area. Alex made a nest for the cubs using old blankets and towels. He set up a heat lamp to keep them warm. The cubs explored their new home carefully. They sniffed everything and stayed close together. The injured one limped when it walked, but it did not seem to be in too much pain. Alex had some emergency food rations that contained protein. He mixed them with water to make a paste. The cubs were hungry enough to try anything. They ate quickly, making happy little sounds. After they finished eating, Alex looked at the injured cub's leg. The cut was not deep, but it needed to be cleaned. He used water and antiseptic from his first aid kit. The cub did not like it, but it let Alex help. As the night went on, Alex watched the cubs settle into their new home. They curled up together under the heat lamp, purring softly. The sound was strange but peaceful. Alex decided to give them names. The biggest one, who seemed to be the leader, he called Storm because of the dark stripes that looked like lightning. The injured one he named Luna, because of the pale spots around its eyes that reminded him of the moon. The smallest one became Shadow because it liked to hide behind the others. Over the next few days, Alex developed a routine. He would go to work during the day and come back to take care of the cubs. They grew stronger and more playful. Storm would pounce on anything that moved. Luna liked to curl up on Alex's lap while he worked at his desk. Shadow discovered that Alex's shoes were fun to chew on. The cubs learned to recognize Alex's voice. When he came home each day, they would run to greet him, making excited chirping sounds. They followed him around the room like loyal pets. Alex knew he was breaking every rule in the book. If anyone found out about the cubs, he would lose his job and probably go to prison. Keeping dangerous alien species was against interstellar law. But looking at Storm, Luna, and Shadow playing together on his floor, he could not imagine them as dangerous. They were just babies who needed someone to take care of them. Dr. Lisa Grant. Alex's research partner started asking questions about why he was spending so much time in his quarters. Alex made excuses about extra paperwork and personal projects. Lisa was suspicious but did not push too hard. The security chief, Jake Morrison, was harder to fool. Jake noticed that Alex was ordering extra food from the supply depot. He also saw Alex leaving the colony at odd hours to collect plants and small animals for the cubs to play with. One evening, Jake knocked on Alex's door. "We need to talk," Jake said when Alex answered. Alex's heart pounded. He tried to act normal, but he knew Jake could see right through him. "Sure, what about?" Jake pushed past him into the room. The cubs were sleeping under their heat lamp, but they woke up when they heard voices. Storm stood up and made a small growling sound. Jake stared at the cubs for a long moment. Then he looked at Alex. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in?" Alex nodded. "I know, but I couldn't just let them die." Jake watched as Luna walked over to Alex and rubbed against his leg. Shadow peeked out from behind the blankets, curious about the stranger. "They trust you," Jake said quietly. "They're just babies," Alex replied. "They don't know they're supposed to be dangerous." Jake was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed. "I didn't see anything here tonight, but you need to be more careful. If anyone else finds out..." "I know," Alex said. "Thank you." Jake left without another word. Alex picked up Luna and scratched behind her ears. She purred and closed her eyes. He had no idea that this moment of kindness would one day save his life. 6 months passed quickly. The cubs grew bigger and stronger every day. Storm was now the size of a medium dog with muscles developing under his dark fur. His claws had grown longer and sharper. Luna walked without limping anymore, and her pale markings had become more pronounced. Shadow was still the smallest, but he was quick and clever. Alex had moved them to a larger space in the unused storage room next to his quarters. He installed better ventilation and more heat lamps. The cubs had plenty of room to run and play. They had learned simple commands and came when Alex called their names. But things were changing. The cubs' natural instincts were starting to show. Storm had begun stalking the small maintenance robots that cleaned the corridors. Luna showed interest in the live samples Alex brought back from his fieldwork. Shadow liked to hide and jump out at people walking past their room. Alex told himself they were still harmless. They played rough with each other, but they were always gentle with him. When he sat down to work, one of them would curl up next to him. At night, they slept in a pile near his bed, making soft purring sounds. Dr. Lisa Grant was getting more suspicious. She noticed that Alex's reports were sometimes late and that he seemed tired during the day. She also heard strange sounds coming from the storage area. "Alex, is everything okay?" she asked one morning as they prepared for a survey mission. "You seem distracted lately." "I'm fine," Alex said, checking his equipment. "Just haven't been sleeping well." Lisa watched him carefully. She had worked with Alex for 2 years and knew when something was bothering him. But before she could ask more questions, their communication devices buzzed with an urgent message. Commander Helen Barnes wanted to see Alex immediately. Alex's blood went cold. Commander Barnes ran the colony with strict efficiency. She did not call people to her office unless something was seriously wrong. Alex walked to the command center with heavy steps. His mind raced with possibilities. Maybe someone had seen the cubs. Maybe Jake had changed his mind about keeping the secret. Maybe the cubs had made too much noise. Commander Barnes was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had served in the military for 20 years before taking the job on Kepler 442b. Her office was neat and organized, with maps of the mining operations covering the walls. "Sit down." "Dr. Carter," she said without looking up from her computer screen. Alex sat in the chair across from her desk. He tried to keep his hands steady. "I've received some interesting reports about unusual activities in your sector," Commander Barnes said. "Increased food orders, strange noises, and sightings of movement in restricted areas." Alex's mouth went dry. "I can explain. I'm sure you can." Commander Barnes finally looked at him. "But before you do, I want you to know that we've already conducted a full investigation." Alex felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. They knew about Storm, Luna, and Shadow. His career was over. Worse, the cubs would probably be killed. Security teams found 3 juvenile Vorthacs in storage room C7. Commander Barnes continued. "The room that connects to your quarters. Alex nodded slowly. There was no point in denying it anymore. Do you understand how dangerous this situation is? Commander Barnes stood up and walked around her desk. Vorthacs are classified as extremely hostile. Even juveniles can cause serious injury or death. They're not dangerous, Alex said quietly. They're just babies. They've never hurt anyone. They're predators, Dr. Carter. It's in their nature. They trust me, Alex said, looking up at her. They follow commands. They're intelligent and gentle. Commander Barnes shook her head. You've been lucky so far. But what happens when they reach full size? An adult Vorthac can tear through steel plating. Alex wanted to argue, but he knew she was right about their physical capabilities. Storm was already showing signs of incredible strength. Just yesterday, he had accidentally bent a metal feeding bowl with his jaws. What's going to happen to them? Alex asked. They're being relocated to a wildlife preserve on Theta 7. It's a protected planet where they can live naturally without contact with humans. They don't know how to live in the wild, Alex protested. They've been with me since they were babies. They don't know how to hunt or take care of themselves. That's not our problem anymore, Commander Barnes said firmly. The transport ship arrives in 6 hours. The cubs will be sedated and moved immediately. Alex felt tears building in his eyes. Can I at least say goodbye to them? Commander Barnes considered this for a moment. 5 minutes. Under supervision, Alex walked back to the storage room with 2 security guards. Officer Ryan Torres, a young man with kind eyes, walked beside him. The other guard, Officer Kate Miller, followed behind. When Alex opened the door, Storm, Luna, and Shadow ran to greet him as they always did. They rubbed against his legs and made happy chirping sounds. They had no idea what was about to happen. Alex knelt down and petted each of them. Storm nuzzled his hand, looking for treats. Luna climbed into his lap and curled up. Shadow brought him a toy made from old fabric scraps. I'm sorry, Alex whispered to them. I'm so sorry. The cubs sensed something was wrong. They stayed closer to Alex than usual and made soft, worried sounds. Storm kept looking at the security guards with cautious eyes. Officer Torres cleared his throat. It's time, Dr. Carter. The veterinary team arrived with sedation equipment. Alex held each cub as they received the injection. Storm fought the sedative the longest, trying to stay awake to protect his family. Luna fell asleep quickly, purring in Alex's arms. Shadow whimpered softly as his eyes closed. Within minutes, all 3 cubs were unconscious. The medical team loaded them onto transport gurneys and wheeled them toward the landing bay. Alex watched them go, feeling like his heart was being torn out of his chest. Officer Torres put a hand on his shoulder. They're going to a good place, Torres said quietly. The preserve on Theta 7 has thousands of acres of forest. They'll be happy there. Alex nodded, but he did not believe it. The cubs had never lived in a forest. They did not know how to be wild animals. They were his family, and he was sending them away to strangers. Dr. Grant found Alex in his quarters that evening, sitting on his bed and staring at the empty space where the cub's nest used to be. I heard what happened, she said softly. I'm sorry. I should have been more careful, Alex said. I should have hidden them better. You saved their lives, Lisa reminded him. If you hadn't found them, they would have died in that cave. Did I, though? Or did I just delay the inevitable? Lisa sat down next to him. You gave them 6 months of love and safety. That's more than most orphaned cubs get. Alex wanted to believe her, but the guilt was overwhelming. He had promised to take care of Storm, Luna, and Shadow. He had failed them. The next few weeks were difficult. Alex went through the motions of his work, but his heart was not in it. He kept expecting to hear their chirping sounds when he came home. He caught himself buying extra food out of habit. Jake Morrison checked on him regularly, bringing coffee and trying to lift his spirits with jokes and stories. But Alex remained distant and sad. They're probably having adventures you can't even imagine, Jake said one evening. Running through forests, swimming in rivers, learning to hunt. They hate being away from me, Alex replied. They've never been alone before. They have each other, Jake pointed out. That's something. Alex tried to focus on his research, but every survey mission reminded him of the day he found the cubs. He avoided the valley where their cave was located. He could not bear to see the empty space where he had first heard their cries. Commander Barnes eventually called him back to her office. Alex expected another lecture about following regulations. Instead, she offered him a transfer to a different research station. A change of scenery might do you good, she said. The work on Europa Station is challenging and important. Alex shook his head. I want to stay here. Dr. Carter, you need to move on. This guilt you're carrying isn't healthy. This is where I found them, Alex said. If they ever come back, I want to be here. Commander Barnes looked at him with something that might have been pity. Dr. Carter, they're not coming back. They're wild animals now. Even if they could find this place, they wouldn't remember you. Alex left her office more determined than ever to stay on Kepler 442b. Somewhere in the galaxy, Storm, Luna, and Shadow were learning to live without him. The least he could do was be there if they ever needed him again. He had no way of knowing that the cubs thought about him every day, or that they were growing into something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. 3 years passed quietly on Kepler 442b. Alex threw himself into his research, mapping the planet's ecosystem and studying the effects of mining on local wildlife. He published several important papers and gained recognition in the scientific community. But late at night, when the work was done, he still thought about Storm, Luna, and Shadow. Dr. Lisa Grant had transferred to another station after 2 years. Jake Morrison got promoted and moved to a larger colony. New people arrived to replace them, but Alex kept to himself mostly. He was polite but distant, focusing on his work and little else. The new colony commander, Robert Hayes, was younger than Barnes had been, but just as strict about following regulations. The mining operations had expanded significantly, with new equipment arriving every few months. The colony now housed over 200 people. Alex had learned to live with the quiet sadness that never quite went away. He wondered sometimes if Storm, Luna, and Shadow were still alive. Adult Vorthax lived for decades, so they could still be out there somewhere. He imagined them as magnificent hunters, rulers of their forest domain. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning in early spring. Alex was eating breakfast in the colony cafeteria when the emergency alert system activated. Red lights flashed throughout the building and a loud siren filled the air. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked around nervously. Commander Hayes' voice came over the communication system. All personnel report to your emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. Alex ran to the science section along with the other researchers, Dr. Carol White. The new head of xenobiology was already there setting up emergency equipment. What's happening? Alex asked. We're getting reports of Vorthak military movements throughout this sector, Dr. White said, her face pale. Multiple fleet formations heading toward human colonies. Alex felt cold fear settle in his stomach. Military movements? It looks like they're preparing for war. The next few hours brought more disturbing news. Vorthak battle fleets had been spotted near 3 different human colonies. Communication attempts were being ignored. Long-range sensors showed massive ships moving in coordinated attack formations. By evening, the situation became clear. The Vorthak Collective had declared war on human space. Alex sat in the emergency briefing room with the other senior staff as Commander Hayes read the official reports. The Vorthak leadership claimed that humans had violated sacred hunting grounds and disrupted the natural order of dozens of worlds. They demanded that all human settlements be abandoned within 30 days. The Federation Council has rejected their demands, Commander Hayes said. We're officially at war. Dr. White raised her hand. What are our orders? Evacuation ships are being dispatched to all frontier colonies. We're considered a low-priority target because of our remote location, but will be evacuated within the week. Alex listened to the discussion about evacuation procedures and emergency protocols, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about 3 small cubs playing in his quarters. Storm, Luna, and Shadow were somewhere out there in Vorthak space. Were they part of this war? Had they grown up to become soldiers? The thought made him sick. Over the next few days, evacuation ships arrived to take people away from Kepler 442b. Families left first, then non-essential personnel. The mining equipment was shut down and secured. Valuable research data was packed for transport. Alex was scheduled to leave on the 3rd ship, but he requested permission to stay longer. Absolutely not, Commander Hayes said when Alex made the request. All civilians are being evacuated. I need to finish securing the research data, Alex argued. Some of my projects contain sensitive information about Vorthak biology. It could be important for the war effort. This was not entirely true, but Hayes did not know enough about xenobiology to argue. After some discussion with his staff, the commander agreed to let Alex stay with a small maintenance crew. In truth, Alex could not bring himself to leave. This planet was where he had found Storm, Luna, and Shadow. It was the last place they had been together as a family. If the war came here, he wanted to face it on familiar ground. The evacuation proceeded smoothly. Within a week, only 12 people remained on Kepler 442b. Besides Alex and Commander Hayes, there was Jake Morrison, who had returned to oversee the evacuation, Dr. White, who had also volunteered to stay, Communications Officer Sam Wells, and 7 maintenance workers. They moved into the Central Research Facility, which had the best defenses and communication equipment. The building could seal itself completely and had emergency power systems that would last for months. As the days passed, news from the war front grew worse. Vorthak forces had attacked and destroyed 2 human colonies. Their warriors were proving to be incredibly effective fighters, even against modern military equipment. Human forces were retreating throughout the sector. They fight like nothing we've ever seen, Sam Wells reported after listening to military communications. Fast, coordinated, and absolutely fearless. Our soldiers say it's like fighting shadows with claws. Alex felt a strange mix of pride and horror. He remembered how quick and clever Storm, Luna, and Shadow had been as cubs. If they had grown up to be warriors, they would be formidable opponents. The Vorthak fleets moved closer to their sector each day. Long-range sensors showed 3 massive ships heading directly toward Kepler 442b. Why would they bother with us? Dr. White wondered. There's nothing here but an abandoned mining colony. Commander Hayes studied the tactical displays. Maybe they want to make sure we don't come back. Total destruction sends a message. Alex spent his time reviewing old research files and thinking about the cubs. He found video recordings he had made of them playing and sleeping. Storm chasing a ball made from scraps. Luna curling up on his lap while he worked. Shadow bringing him small gifts like stones and twigs. They had been so innocent then, so trusting and loving. The Vorthak ships arrived in the system on a cold morning 2 weeks after the evacuation. 3 huge vessels, each one larger than anything in the human fleet. They moved with predatory grace, circling the planet like hunters stalking prey. Incoming transmission, Sam Wells announced from the communication station. A harsh, growling voice filled the room, speaking in the Vorthak language. Alex recognized some of the words from his xenobiology studies. They're demanding our surrender, Alex translated. They say we have 1 hour to evacuate or be destroyed. Fat chance, Jake Morrison said, checking his weapon. Where would we go? Our ships are already gone. Commander Hayes activated the colony's defensive systems. Energy shields came online around the research facility. Automated defense turrets emerged from hidden positions. It was not much against a full military force, but it was all they had. If we're going to die here, we might as well make them work for it, Hayes said grimly. Alex looked out the window at the purple sky where 3 alien warships hung like dark clouds. Somewhere aboard those ships were Vorthak warriors preparing for battle. He wondered if any of them had been cubs once, saved by an act of human kindness. Probably not, he thought. The galaxy was a big place, and 3 years was a long time. The hour passed quickly. At exactly 60 minutes after their first transmission, the Vorthak ships began launching smaller vessels toward the planet's surface. Dozens of sleek attack craft streaked through the atmosphere like falling stars. Here they come, Jake announced, watching the sensor displays. The first explosions shook the building as Vorthak forces attacked the outer defenses. Alex could hear the sound of energy weapons and metal being torn apart. The automated turrets fired back, but they were quickly overwhelmed. They're inside the perimeter, Dr. White reported, her voice shaking. Through the security cameras, Alex caught glimpses of the attackers. Adult Vorthaks were even more impressive than he had imagined. They moved with fluid grace despite their size, leaping over obstacles and scaling walls with ease. Their dark fur was marked with military symbols, and their claws gleamed in the artificial light. They looked nothing like the playful cubs he remembered. The Vorthak forces reached the research facility within minutes. The building's shields flickered and failed under concentrated fire. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. They're coming through the outer doors, Jake reported from his position at the security console. Alex heard the sound of metal being ripped apart, followed by the distinctive hunting calls of Vorthak warriors. The calls echoed through the corridors, getting closer by the minute. The 12 humans gathered in the main laboratory, their backs to the walls and weapons ready. Alex had never fired a gun in anger before, but he held his pistol steady. If Storm, Luna, and Shadow were out there somewhere, He hoped they would remember him kindly. The hunting calls grew louder. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Then the laboratory doors exploded inward and 3 massive Vorthak warriors entered the room. The Vorthak attack on the colony's outer defenses lasted exactly 18 minutes. Alex watched through the security monitors as the alien warriors moved through the facility like deadly shadows. Their coordination was perfect, each team knowing exactly where to go and what to destroy. The humans had sealed themselves in the central laboratory, which was the most secure part of the research facility. The room had reinforced walls, emergency power, and multiple layers of security doors. It was designed to protect valuable research from accidents and natural disasters, not from military assault. Dr. Carol White worked frantically at her computer, trying to transmit their research data to other human colonies before the communication systems were destroyed. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as explosions echoed through the building. "Got it," she announced. "All the important data is uploaded to the Federation network. At least something good will come from this." Commander Hayes had positioned the remaining defenders around the room. Jake Morrison crouched behind an overturned table with his rifle ready. Sam Wells monitored the communication equipment, listening to the sounds of battle getting closer. The 7 maintenance workers huddled together near the emergency supplies, their faces pale with fear. Alex stood near the main entrance, his pistol in his hand. He had never been in combat before, but the weapon felt familiar enough. Point and pull the trigger, simple in theory, terrifying in practice. The building shook as another explosion rocked the facility. Emergency lights flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The air recycling system was making strange noises, probably damaged by the attack. "They're in the main corridor," Jake reported, watching his security monitor. 3 teams moving fast. Alex could hear them now. The distinctive sound of Vorthak claws on metal flooring and their deep, rumbling communication calls. The sounds brought back memories of Storm, Luna, and Shadow making similar noises when they played together in his quarters. But these were not playful cubs. These were adult warriors, and they were here to kill. The first security door exploded inward with a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke, Alex saw shapes moving in the corridor beyond, large, dark forms with glowing yellow eyes. "Remember, aim for center mass," Commander Hayes called out. "Don't waste ammunition on warning shots." The second security door lasted about 30 seconds longer than the first. When it fell, the Vorthak warriors were close enough that Alex could see the details of their armor and weapons. They wore form-fitting battle suits that enhanced their natural abilities without restricting movement. Their claws had been fitted with metal extensions that could cut through steel. Alex had studied Vorthak physiology for years, but seeing adult warriors in person was completely different from looking at research photos. They were magnificent and terrifying at the same time, 8 feet tall with powerful muscles under dark fur marked with silver stripes. Their movements were fluid and graceful like deadly dancers. One of the maintenance workers, a young man named Pete, started to panic. "We're all going to die," he whispered over and over. "We're all going to die." Dr. White put her hand on his shoulder. "Stay calm. We've done everything we can." The third security door began to glow red hot as the Vorthaks used some kind of cutting tool on it. Alex could smell the metal melting. His heart was beating so fast it felt like it might burst. "Any last words?" Jake asked with a bitter smile. "Yeah," Alex said quietly. "I'm sorry, Storm. I'm sorry, Luna. I'm sorry, Shadow." Jake looked at him strangely, but there was no time to explain. The final security door fell with a crash that shook the entire room. 3 Vorthak warriors entered the laboratory. They were even more impressive up close. The lead warrior had scars across his muzzle, and a distinctive pattern of silver stripes that reminded Alex of lightning. The second warrior was slightly smaller, with pale markings around the eyes that looked almost like a mask. The third warrior was the largest of the 3, moving with the fluid confidence of a natural leader. All 3 had their claws extended and their weapons ready. Their yellow eyes scanned the room, identifying threats and planning their attack. They made low growling sounds to each other, communicating in their own language. The humans raised their weapons, but Alex knew it was hopeless. Even if they managed to kill these 3 warriors, there were dozens more in the building. And Vorthaks were notoriously hard to stop, even when badly wounded. Commander Hayes stepped forward, trying to look brave despite the obvious terror in his eyes. "We surrender," he said clearly. "We are unarmed researchers. We pose no threat to your people. The lead Vorthak warrior tilted his head, considering this statement. Then he said something in the Vorthak language that Alex could not translate. It sounded like a question. The pale-marked warrior responded with a series of short barks that were clearly negative. The largest warrior remained silent, watching the humans with intelligent eyes. They're deciding whether to take prisoners or just kill us all, Alex realized. Jake tightened his grip on his rifle. Well, I'm not going down without a fight. But before anyone could move, something strange happened. The largest warrior suddenly froze, his head turning toward Alex. His nostrils flared as if he was smelling something familiar. The warrior took a step closer to Alex, ignoring the weapons pointed at him. His yellow eyes focused intently on the human scientist. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. There was something about this warrior's gaze that seemed familiar. The way he moved his head, the pattern of his markings, even the careful way he approached. No, Alex thought. It's impossible. They were taken to a preserve light years away from here. The warrior stopped just a few feet from Alex and made a soft sound that was completely unlike the aggressive growls from before. It was a questioning chirp, almost like a cub asking for attention. Alex's pistol trembled in his hand. His mind raced through possibilities and probabilities, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The warrior's size, his markings, the way he held his head when he was curious. It can't be, Alex whispered. The warrior heard him speak and took another step closer. The other two Vorthaks moved to flank their companion, but they seemed confused by his behavior. This was clearly not part of their battle plan. Alex looked into the warrior's eyes and saw something that made his breath catch. Intelligence, yes, but also something else. Something that might have been recognition. The warrior reached out slowly with one massive clawed hand. Alex knew he should step back, should raise his weapon, should do something to defend himself. Instead, he stood perfectly still as the alien touched his face with surprising gentleness. The warrior's claws were razor-sharp, capable of tearing through armor plating, but he touched Alex's cheek as carefully as if he were handling fragile glass. Then the warrior spoke, and Alex's world turned upside down. Alex, the warrior said in heavily accented but recognizable human speech. Alex, friend? The other humans in the room stared in shock. Commander Hayes lowered his weapon slowly, his mouth hanging open. Dr. White dropped her data pad with a clatter that echoed through the sudden silence. Alex felt tears building in his eyes as 3 years of wondering and worrying came crashing down on him at once. Storm, he whispered. The warrior's entire posture changed. His aggressive stance melted away, replaced by something that looked almost like joy. He made the same happy chirping sound that Alex remembered from 3 years ago, though now it came from a throat designed for battle roars. The pale-marked warrior stepped forward, his own eyes fixed on Alex with growing excitement. Luna? Alex asked, hardly daring to believe it. The second warrior nodded enthusiastically, bouncing slightly on his feet the way he used to do as a cub when Alex came home from work. Alex turned to the largest warrior, the one who had been watching everything with intelligent eyes. Shadow? Shadow nodded slowly, his massive frame somehow managing to convey the same shy personality Alex remembered. He had grown into a magnificent warrior, but he still had the careful, thoughtful manner that had made him special as a cub. The 3 Vorthak warriors stood before Alex, no longer the terrifying aliens who had burst through the security doors. They were Storm, Luna, and Shadow, grown up but still recognizable to the human who had raised them. But even as Alex felt overwhelming joy at seeing them alive and well, he knew that everything had changed. They were soldiers now, part of an army that was at war with humanity. The cubs he had loved were now his enemies, and he had no idea what that meant for any of them. The silence in the laboratory stretched for what felt like forever. Alex stood face to face with Storm, Luna, and Shadow, hardly believing they were real. The 3 Vorthak warriors who had once been tiny cubs in his quarters were now magnificent adults, armed and dangerous. But as he looked into their familiar yellow eyes, Alex saw the same personalities he remembered. Storm still had that confident, protective stance. Luna's pale markings were more pronounced now, and he moved with the same quick grace he had shown as a cub. Shadow remained the largest and most thoughtful, watching everything with careful intelligence. I can't believe it's really you, Alex said softly. Storm stepped closer and nuzzled Alex's hand with his muzzle, just as he had done years ago. His fur was coarser now and he smelled of metal and battle, but the gesture was exactly the same. Luna made a happy chirping sound and rubbed against Alex's leg. Even at full size, he still acted like an oversized cat seeking attention. Shadow remained more reserved, but his tail swished in a way that Alex recognized as contentment. The other humans in the room watched this reunion with amazement and growing hope. If these Vorthak warriors remembered Alex with obvious affection, maybe they were not all going to die today. Commander Hayes slowly lowered his weapon completely. "Dr. Carter, would you mind explaining what's happening here?" "These are the cubs I rescued 3 years ago," Alex said, never taking his eyes off Storm, Luna, and Shadow. "They were taken to a preserve when they got too big to hide." "The preserve on Theta 7, Dr. White said suddenly. "That planet was attacked by pirates 2 years ago. The wildlife preserve was destroyed." Alex felt a chill. "What happened to the animals?" "The survivors were relocated again, but many were conscripted into military service. The Vorthak Collective has been recruiting warriors from frontier populations." Storm seemed to understand the conversation. He spoke in his deep, rumbling voice, the words carefully pronounced. "Theta 7. Bad place. Pirates come. Kill many, we fight. We survive." Luna nodded enthusiastically. "Shadow, lead us. Keep safe. Learn to fight." Shadow spoke for the first time, his voice the deepest of the three. "Alex, teach us. Trust, kindness, we remember." Alex felt tears running down his cheeks. His cubs had survived pirate attacks, military conscription, and a galactic war. And somehow they had found their way back to him. But the reunion was interrupted by the sound of more Vorthak warriors entering the building. Storm, Luna, and Shadow immediately became alert, their battle instincts taking over. A harsh voice called out in the Vorthak language from the corridor. Storm responded with a series of sharp barks that sounded like military communication. "More warriors coming," Storm explained to Alex. "My pack leader. He want to know why we take so long." Alex realized they were in a very dangerous situation. The other Vorthak warriors would not understand or care about his relationship with Storm, Luna, and Shadow. They were here to destroy the colony and kill any humans they found. "What are you going to tell them?" Alex asked. Storm looked at Luna and Shadow, communicating with subtle gestures and expressions. They had clearly developed their own system of nonverbal communication over the years. "We tell them facility is cleared," Shadow said finally. "All humans dead or gone. But we're right here," Jake Morrison pointed out. "Not anymore," Luna said with something that might have been a smile. "You are our prisoners now. Our responsibility." Commander Hayes started to object, but Alex held up his hand. "They're trying to protect us. Let them handle this." Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor as more Vorthak warriors approached the laboratory. Storm quickly positioned himself in front of the entrance with Luna and Shadow flanking him. Their posture was respectful but confident, the stance of experienced warriors reporting to a superior. A massive Vorthak warrior entered the room. He was even larger than Shadow, with battle scars covering his arms and face. His armor was more elaborate, marking him as a high-ranking officer. His yellow eyes swept the laboratory, taking in the cowering humans and the strange behavior of his subordinates. He spoke in rapid Vorthak, his tone demanding and suspicious. Storm responded calmly, gesturing toward the humans with what looked like casual dismissal. The pack leader studied Storm carefully, then looked at the humans again. Alex tried to look defeated and harmless, which was not difficult since he was genuinely terrified. Luna added something to the conversation, his tone cheerful and matter-of-fact. Shadow remained silent but nodded when the pack leader looked at him for confirmation. The pack leader seemed satisfied with their report. He barked orders to Storm, Luna, and Shadow, then turned to leave. But before he reached the door, he stopped and looked back at Alex. The massive warrior approached slowly, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Alex forced himself to stand still as the alien examined him with obvious curiosity. "This human is different," the pack leader said in accented but clear human speech. "He smells of cubs. Old scent but strong." Alex's heart pounded, but Storm stepped smoothly between them. "Ancient scent, pack leader Grack," Storm said. "This human worked with young Vorthaks at research facility. Harmless scientist." Pack leader Grack studied Storm's face for a long moment. Alex could tell the older warrior was suspicious, but he seemed to trust Storm's judgment. "Very well," Grack said finally. "Secure the prisoners. We leave in 1 hour." He departed with his warriors, leaving Storm, Luna, and Shadow alone with the humans. Dr. White was the first to speak. What just happened? We bought some time, Shadow explained. But not much. When we leave with main force, other warriors will come to finish destruction. So we're still going to die just later, Jake said bitterly. Storm shook his massive head. No, we take you with us. As prisoners, Commander Hayes asked. As protected persons, Luna corrected. Storm, Shadow, and I are pack leaders now. We have authority to claim prisoners for interrogation and intelligence. Alex began to understand their plan. You're going to smuggle us off the planet. Exactly, Shadow confirmed. But you must do exactly as we say. Other warriors cannot know of our previous relationship. Over the next hour, Storm, Luna, and Shadow prepared their human prisoners for transport. They provided the humans with basic supplies and explained the rules they would need to follow. Act defeated but not broken, Storm instructed. Vorthax respect courage but not stupidity. You are valuable prisoners, not victims for sport, Luna added. Stay close to us always. Other warriors will not harm you if you are under our protection. Shadow was more specific. Never speak our cub names in front of others. We are Storm of Dark Waters, Luna of Pale Stars, and Shadow of Deep Forest now. Warrior names, not pet names. Alex nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. His cubs had become important figures in Vorthax society. They were risking their careers and possibly their lives to save him and the other humans. When pack leader Grak returned, he found the humans properly restrained and ready for transport. Storm reported that the facility had been completely destroyed and all valuable intelligence secured. These prisoners know about human research into Vorthak biology. Storm lied smoothly. They will be useful for planning future operations. Grak nodded approvingly. Good work. Load them on your transport. The flight to the Vorthak command ship was terrifying and amazing at the same time. Alex had never been aboard an alien vessel before. The design was both elegant and efficient, with curved walls and surfaces that seemed to flow like water. Storm piloted the small craft with obvious skill, while Luna and Shadow kept watch on their prisoners. Through the viewports, Alex could see the massive Vorthak warships hanging in space like dark cities. What happens now? Alex asked quietly. Now we disappear, Shadow said. Our mission here is complete. We will be reassigned to other duties, and us? Storm looked back from the pilot's seat. We take care of our family. Always. As they approached the command ship, Alex thought about the strange path that had brought them all to this moment. 3 orphaned cubs, saved by a moment of human compassion, had grown up to become warriors in an alien army, and now they were saving the human who had saved them. The war between humans and Vorthax was far from over. There would be more battles, more losses, more suffering on both sides. But in this small corner of the galaxy, kindness had triumphed over hatred. Storm, Luna, and Shadow had never forgotten the human who treated them like family when they were small and helpless. They had grown into fierce warriors, but they remembered that strength should be used to protect, not just to destroy. Alex settled back in his seat as the transport docked with the command ship. Whatever came next, he knew he was with his family again. And sometimes that was enough to make even the darkest war seem bearable. The cubs he had loved were gone, replaced by magnificent adults with their own lives and responsibilities. But the bond between them remained unbroken, proof that love could transcend species time and the chaos of war. In a galaxy torn apart by conflict, 3 Vorthak warriors had chosen to remember kindness instead of embracing hatred, and that choice would echo through the stars for generations to come.